evening, and welcome to the Sleeky Coffee Shop. I get to have some fun tonight and sit down with two groundbreaking researchers, Barbara and Sheila. How are you?
I'm awesome. How are you? Thanks for having us.
Yes, thank you.
Doing well, darling. So you guys finally got your book out. How's
Yes.
it doing?
Actually it's doing great. And I just happen to have a copy right here.
Very
Cosmic
good.
Convergence, Journeys of Walk-in Starseeds and Hybrids. It actually made its worldwide debut on the 22nd. So we are absolutely thrilled.
Well, good. How was it writing in partnership? Because you two usually work independently. So how was that?
And we work in different states entirely. And but thanks to the telephone and internet, I think we've been able to keep on communicating with each other really well.
Good. Now, do you both have similar writing styles? Or is one of you a pantser and the other one's a planner?
I think our writing styles are probably pretty different.
Okay.
But the beautiful thing is they mesh together beautifully. And so
Good.
you definitely can tell one person's style versus the other. But I think that really adds to the book, because then you know who wrote what.
Right.
Because in the book, everything is segmented. And then like when you get to the section on walk-ins, starseeds, and hybrids, after the opening chapter, then Barbara has contributed like multiple hypnotic regression sessions. And so you can definitely tell her style versus when mine stops.
Now, there's some terms here we need to cover for our audience. What is a walk-in?
Okay, now there are several types of walk-ins, but the most common that people think of is when one soul steps out and another soul steps in. So that's, in my case, when I became a walk-in, my original soul or the natal soul left. If a new soul had not come in, my body would have died. So you could say that I had a near-death experience, except for the other soul chose to go on its own path and to finish up its work on the other side.
Okay. And Barbara, how did you run into those? Because you went into regression for almost decades now.
Oh, yes. Well, back in about 1990, I was at a conference for past life regression therapists, which I was established in by that time. And one of my colleagues told about a situation she had been working with and had done many regressions with this particular woman client. And it turned out that the reason why that client was allergic to just about everything on Earth, which really having a very challenging, difficult time. And it turned out they found in regression that the reason for that was that she, the client, was actually a walk-in. She had done the soul exchange with a woman who was here and who really didn't want to be in life anymore. So that exchange happened. And then once they realized that, right after that regression, lo and behold, all of the allergies went away, because now the client, the woman, understood why suddenly she had experienced things so differently. So here she had the body of the woman she did the exchange with, and had the whole life. In other words, children, if that original woman had had children, or a husband, if she had had a husband, and whatever her life circumstances were, this new soul inhabiting that body took up that life and lived there the rest of her life, I'm sure. So and all of that for wonderful good reason, because the incoming soul wanted very much to be helpful to humanity. The original person wasn't. wasn't really doing anything to help anybody.
Right.
She wasn't a bad person, but she wasn't really.
So it was kind of like, this is bullshit. I'm done with this. Let's get out of here.
Well, yes,
Exactly.
exactly. Yeah, yeah, I've
Yeah.
had it. And, you know, it's wonderful too that the leaving soul
Mm-hmm.
is better than ever having left, because that soul goes right back into the spirit realm,
Mm-hmm.
where we all die. We all do after we die. Uh, so that soul is just fine.
Mm-hmm.
It's sort of at home
Mm-hmm.
as they feel when they get back into the spirit realm. So it's a good thing for that one, and a wonderful opportunity for the incoming soul to come
Mm-hmm.
do the service that it has come to do. As like in
What are
Sheila
you finding
case.
with like the soul schools and the contracts that Soul two made previously,
Well,
comparative to Soul ones? What happens with all those?
Well, in my case, what happened is when I came in, I had to complete all of the previous souls contracts. And I
Okay.
also had to clear any karma. And I
Mm-hmm.
picked that life up and resumed it. Now, when I came into a very, very sick body.
Mm-hmm.
The body had been diagnosed with bone cancer, brain tumors, fibromyalgia, chronic fatigue, erythema nodosum, walked with a cane, you name it. It's like everything was going on with the body. The beginning stages of RA, multiple sclerosis.
Mm-hmm.
And now I see that that was just setting the stage for this agreement that had been
Mm-hmm.
made on the other side. So
Okay.
when this soul cried out to be released, I am part of a collective, and that's a story in and of itself. But when I came in as a result of that soul crying out to be released because it was in so much pain, and it
Mm-hmm.
really, the body was in pain. And so it
Mm-hmm.
really was not able to accomplish its mission. And when I
Mm-hmm.
came in, the body was instantaneously healed. And if something like this had not happened to me, I would have never believed
Mm-hmm.
that this was possible. I was never
Right.
taught about this. I mean, nobody's really taught about it, but it was just a phenomenon that happened. And
Right.
when after being in the body, after integrating, and one of the things is I felt like I was the only one because I did not know another
Mm-hmm.
walk in. Of course, for me, within 3 months, I had left the marriage because
Mm-hmm.
all of a sudden, first off, there was no resonance with the husband. I had all of these things happening to me. I immediately was clairvoyant, clairaudient, clairsentient. That had never
Mm-hmm.
been. All of a sudden, I had all this universal knowledge just rolling around in my head that I'd never studied. I knew what it was like for a soul to slip out of the body. I knew what it
Mm-hmm.
was like for a soul to be on the other side, because
Mm-hmm.
when the soul exchange happened for me, I was in bed. And all of a
Mm-hmm.
sudden, I felt like somebody reached down and grabbed me by the hair of the head, pulled me bolt right up in bed. And it was like lightning ran through my
Mm-hmm.
body. And then I was in white space. And I don't know
Mm-hmm.
how long I was in white space, but I know for the first time in eons, I was not in pain. And it was
Mm-hmm.
nothing but unconditional love. And I just really did not want to leave there. But obviously, what happened, the next thing was the peripheral vision started coming in, and then the frontal vision. So I'm sitting there looking around in the room like, what the heck just happened? Why am I sitting up in bed? And as I got up, everything, like my feet on the floor, it felt like I'd never touched a surface before. I'd never touched carpet. And when I walked by the mirror, I just stopped and was staring at myself because it was as if I was looking out of somebody else's eyes. And then I started remembering all these past lives. Now, they were not mine, but they were the bodies. And so that
Mm-hmm.
jolt of energy, when it came in, activated that. Now, the important thing was the old soul did not even believe in that. And because I
Mm-hmm.
still had that brain, I'm just adjusting, having to shift out neurology into biology and that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, I had no idea what was happening because I
Mm-hmm.
didn't believe in past lives. And then I started remembering healing modalities that I had never, ever studied. So needless to say, within 3 months, I had left that marriage. And then in another 3 months, I had accepted a job in Kentucky. And there, of course, we didn't have Google at the time. In the back of the phone directory, there was a business size card ad for a spiritual counselor. Well, because my background was in psychology, then all of a sudden that was like, oh, this is the perfect thing. So I felt very comfortable. I made the appointment. I went to see the lady, and a couple sessions in, she said, because I went there. The reason I did is because I thought I was having a psychotic break. And so I thought I had no memories of the previous life. So I thought I was having a dissociative disorder. I'd already diagnosed myself as having some kind of a trauma episode and all these kinds of things. And she's like, no, none of that's true for you. And I'm like, how can that be? How can I remember? And what is this? I'm hearing people. I'm seeing people walk around that nobody else has seen. What is going on with me? Well, first they began to explain about clairvoyance, clairaudience, etc. And then she introduced a concept of a walk-in. And she actually gave me a book to take back. I did not read it. I was so frustrated. I went there to get a pill because I was in the Western. Remember, I had been sick. So I just wanted everything to go away. I wanted to go back to my dysfunctional life that I was very comfortable with. I didn't want to see or hear or any of that kind of stuff. And so she told me that I was a walk-in. She goes, I really think that you're a walk-in. And she explained a walk-in. And then I got even angrier. And so when I left, I was so angry. But by the time I got to the car, everything just kind of settled in. And it's like, that's exactly what's going on with me. But even though I acknowledged that, it took a long time to really settle into that because, number one, I didn't know anyone else. There was very little literature out there about walk-ins. We didn't have the internet. And if someone was a walk-in, they sure weren't talking about it. And so...
Especially not in Kentucky, honey, because I'm sorry.
Absolutely.
I love Kentucky. And
I worked for a congressman's office, so no, you don't talk about that stuff. No. And
no. When I go into Kentucky, it's like I'm here to get my bourbon, pick me up some fries, and I am out of town.
There you
See you later. No mention of, by the way, I'm doing a conference at 6 p.m. at the Hilton.
Exactly.
Now, I've got a question about this, and it's a thought and theory I've had. Do you think it's where we've extended the human's life expectancy? Because over the past 200 years, we've doubled it. So could we be seeing this phenomenon more?
Actually, as far as walk-ins go, I think we're seeing that phenomenon less. Because the walk-ins that come in are actually fully equipped, ready to go, hit the ground. They know who they are, and they're after it. Okay. What we're seeing more of are star seeds, but I do agree the life has expanded. But you also have to realize that there are theories that we had the 12 strands of DNA, and over time that was switched off to bring us down to 2 DNA strands because people live to be 800, 900 years old, 1,000 years old in recorded history. But now, the lifespan was shorter and now it's getting longer. And I think there's a couple reasons for that. First, because of the rotational spin of the planet and where we are in the Milky Way galaxy. The other thing is, I think more and more people are spiritually awakened. And when you spiritually awaken, honestly, I think you start to younger. I think people start to look younger. And the other thing is healthcare and nutrition that plays a big role in this. And so this generation, I think that we're living in is going to be the generation that actually moves into what some people call that new human state, where we are awake, we are aware, we have that fifth dimensional consciousness. The collective consciousness shifts and vibrates at a frequency that brings it into resonance with the fifth dimension, and bam, we all just transition.
Is that what you're seeing, Barbara?
Yes, I am. Not exactly through the same eyes or
Mm-hmm.
experience that Sheila has, but definitely through my work with people and just
Mm-hmm.
association with people. And I think just my consciousness. We have so
Right.
many opportunities these days for expanding our consciousness, and many,
Mm-hmm.
many people are doing that. And often people will come to me for regressions, and they would be the kind of person that I wouldn't think would be really widening, shall we say, in
Right.
consciousness and spirituality, but they are. So it might be a labor worker.
Mm-hmm.
I would not guess initially would be particularly interested in these things,
Mm-hmm.
and yet they are. And
Mm-hmm.
I think it's really, really wonderful. So I don't
Mm-hmm.
know about other countries in the
Mm-hmm.
world. I'm sure that some of that is happening there, but I do know that more and more of that expanding of awareness and interest and curiosity in all of
Mm-hmm.
reality is happening more and more here in the United States. So I really welcome that, and
Right.
hopefully I'm part of that.
Well, I think you are because you've been a champion within past life regression. I believe before that you were doing a little bit of spiritual counseling, whatever you want to call it, and it led into all this.
Yes, I
What
was.
shifts are you seeing?
Well, I was just to finish what you were saying.
Uh huh.
Um, I was originally, and for a long, long time, a practicing psychotherapist.
Mm-hmm.
So people would come to me with, just regular
Mm-hmm.
human everyday problems, and and many of them, though, were asking some of the bigger questions and wondering about reality and finding out that they had had previous lifetimes and that
Mm-hmm.
indeed what we really are is
Mm-hmm.
a soul. A
Right.
soul, you know, has many, many incarnations on
Mm-hmm.
Earth, and the same soul can have many experiences as other kinds of beings in other planets.
Right.
Now, when we first discovered that was even before I got into work with extraterrestrial experiences, but I was regressing some of my, I call them regular therapy
Mm-hmm.
clients. And
Right.
a few of them were finding when we did a regression to whatever was the original source of the problem they were working on, in which
Mm-hmm.
a few of them found in the regression that they were a very different type of being from a different planet that had come to Earth um,
Mm-hmm.
in a past life. So that certainly brought my awareness to that whole thing. That wow, there must be other beings if some of us have been them in
Right.
previous lives. So it's just kind of opened up over a period of years to
Mm-hmm.
me that there are these other beings. And then in 1991, people started coming specifically to find out about very unusual experiences that they had had
Mm-hmm.
with other beings, and they didn't know what those other beings were, where they were from, but they knew that they were getting visited and usually taken away for an
Mm-hmm.
hour or so. And usually they remembered only the very first few moments of a
Mm-hmm.
conflict like that and wanted to know what else might have happened that they didn't
Right.
remember. And so that's how I got into all of that work with the extraterrestrial beings.
Mm-hmm.
Been a very interesting journey, I must say. I can't imagine ever doing more work or any other kind of work that is more interesting to me.
Mm-hmm.
Feel very
Yeah,
fortunate.
because if we go back and look at like your career in the 70s, you were just working with basic clients, as we call them.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. And then you began apparently having these interactions. So star seeds, where do we get started with that? Where did we start seeing those things occur?
Oh, well,
Yeah.
I think more and more people are waking up to the fact that they're a star seed. And a lot
Mm-hmm.
of times people are like, well, what do you mean I'm a star seed? And if people are, I always tell people, you might be a star seed if, first off,
Right.
you're feeling like you're out of place. You
Mm-hmm.
have this persistent kind of sense of not belonging to Earth or being in the wrong family. The other
Yes.
thing is a lot of star seeds, they literally go out and they're just looking up into the sky and they're fascinated by space and the stars and sometimes a particular constellation or sometimes another star. The other thing is a lot of star seeds, they have this feeling that they just want to go home. They don't know where home is, but they just want to go home. And as they begin to wake up to the fact that maybe they're not from this planet, because, we do have souls that are from this planet, we have souls off planet, we have souls from other dimensions, etc. But when they wake up to the fact that they are not from here, a lot of times they either really resonate with a planet or a constellation, or they have memories about being on other planets or constellations. They have what they say memories that they said, I've never experienced this, but it feels like a memory of being
Yeah.
on craft, of having a different family. A lot of
Mm-hmm.
times they're very empathetic and very sensitive. Some people say, oh, they're very high strung, but not always. Another
Mm-hmm.
thing is they're really connected to like nature and the animals, and they have a strong desire to be of service to humanity. But when you look at star seeds, I mean, they can be from anything from the Pleiades to Sirian to Lyra to, Andromeda, Orion, Arcturus, you name it. They can be from any, planet, any star
Mm-hmm.
system, because my belief and what I remember and what my collective has shared with me is we are all like consciousness units or individuations of
Mm-hmm.
source energy. And we have
Right.
that divine spark within us. Well, our sole purpose is to experience. And so, when we leave one life, we're not just sitting around. We don't just go to a particular location and hang out there for eternity. That's not the way it works. We're
Right.
here to stretch and to grow as a soul. And what better place to do that than to come to Earth, where you've got all this duality and you're connected into the false matrix. And,
Mm-hmm.
this is just a great place to really discover who you are. It's also a good place to come in and to start clearing some of the, trauma dramas from other lifetimes. And so a
Mm-hmm.
lot of people everybody actually that I met with today in the healing sessions that I do were from other planets, every single one of
Mm-hmm.
them. And it is rare to ever find someone who incarnated at the very beginning of this planet when Gaia chose to put her consciousness here, because those
Mm-hmm.
would be earth seeds. And those souls would then progress through all the different forms that there are until they come here. And, the lady that I actually studied with, the therapist that I went to see, was actually she was a Hopi elder, and she had
Mm-hmm.
been charged with having women's circles. And I actually sat in those. And in those circles, we learned all about the indigenous teachings. We learned about shamanism and, how to
Mm-hmm.
travel and all that kind of stuff. But the one thing that was very, very consistent, as we studied the Hopi, we began to study other indigenous nations, and they all say that they're from the stars. There's
Yes.
not one indigenous tribe on this planet that say, oh yeah, we're from here. We were just born here and we were created here. So,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
star seeds, people are waking up to the fact
Mm-hmm.
that they're a star seed.
Right.
Yes.
And
But,
those can be experiences. Barbara, where did you run into them?
well, they started coming into my practice for regressions, and they didn't know that there was such a thing as a
Hmm.
star seed. And of course, they didn't know that they were a star seed. But as we sort of discussed things, as I always
Hmm.
do with the person before we actually do the regression itself,
Hmm.
um, I was gathering the sense that the person typically, um, felt that whatever work that they had been doing in their life up to that point, and they might be in their 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, um, that whatever they had been doing was okay, fine, but that they had this persistent sense that there was something more special that they were supposed to be doing here
Hmm.
in their lives. And sometimes they had a hint or two of what that might be, but they very often wanted clarity. And that's why they were coming for the regression, not to
Hmm.
find out about something that had happened previously in this life or a past life,
Hmm.
but to kind of explore, okay, why am I really here? What
Hmm.
is my purpose that I sense I have, but I don't have a grasp on it? I don't have clarity. And that started happening for me more and more, I think about 4 years ago, and people
Okay.
are still coming for that reason. So in that case, we don't go into the past necessarily, but we
Hmm.
go into their own soul or their higher knowing, their
Hmm.
higher self, their higher wisdom. And then they get the answers to that, they get the clarity. And it turns out in some of those cases that the people have already been doing some of that in their
Hmm.
lives. But now they know that that is what their main concentration is to
Right.
be. And they are so grateful in every one of these cases, so grateful to know, to be able to get on with it. You
Hmm.
know, it's like they find that they have a particular kind of mission to do,
Hmm.
uh, mostly to help other people, sometimes to help a huge group of people, to raise
Hmm.
consciousness and educate them about these other aspects of reality. Some of them are more focused on helping animals. In other words,
Right.
communicating with animals and
Hmm.
often healing animals. And some
Right.
of them work with the kinds of animal life that I know I wouldn't want to work with, such as reptiles and snakes and things, even poisonous snakes. Um, One woman I know, actually, she's a hybrid,
Hmm.
and a star seed, because she's definitely here on a mission. She does a tremendous amount of work with animals and snakes, and she's great friends with these snakes that the rest of us would run and hide from, like
Interesting.
poisonous snakes, rattlesnakes, and so forth. And yet um, they sense something about her, apparently, and they will come right to her, and she'll hold them and wrap them around herself and communicate with them telepathically. And another one, a woman I know, um, is so psychic with animals that she can help the Humane Society and police department and so forth to rescue lost animals. So remotely, she can communicate with the lost animal
Hmm.
and realize what the situation is that the animal is in, and
Right.
actually where, a general location.
Right.
And then she sends the authorities in, and they go and find the animal and rescue it. I mean, what a wonderful service
Hmm.
that is. So, all of these people, star seeds and hybrids, which we'll talk about too, um, are here, and walk-ins are
Hmm.
to give wonderful, wonderful service to
Hmm.
humanity. And so often it's service that nobody else can do, people who don't have those special abilities.
Mhm.
So I think
But you
reverse.
bring up a good move. You've moved us into the next one easily. Hybrids, what are they, Barbara? How do they work?
Well, hybrids are genetically part human and part extraterrestrial.
Mm-hmm.
There's a huge program going on, which I had not been aware of until probably the early 1990s. But there's a huge hybridization program going on from beings in space. Many different species, shall we say, of
Mm-hmm.
extraterrestrials. Some of them are doing hybridization between one extraterrestrial species and another. There's apparently,
Mm-hmm.
I have been told, a lot of that going on. And also, there's a very large program of hybridization between extraterrestrial beings and human beings. So we have found out various ways that they do this hybridization. And a
Mm-hmm.
very typical way is that the beings will take eggs from a human woman and sperm
Mm-hmm.
from a human man, usually the husband of that woman, if she has a husband, or else
Mm-hmm.
some other man. And the beings, the extraterrestrial beings, take that material from the woman and from the man and mix it together with their genetics. And
Okay.
genetics might come from one species of extraterrestrials, but usually, in the cases that I know about, there were several different species of
Mm-hmm.
extraterrestrials who gave their genetic material to this mix. So they create an embryo, and
Mm-hmm.
on a certain occasion, they implant that embryo, which has already been hybridized, into the woman from whom they had removed the eggs previously. And she will
Mm-hmm.
gestate that little embryo for usually up to about 2 months or so, maybe a little bit longer in some cases. And then the woman will be taken again by the beings, and the embryo is removed from her.
Mm-hmm.
She's no longer pregnant, even though she had had it validated that she was pregnant. And then that embryo is put into a glass tank on board one of the ships, the UFOs,
A
and
stasis pod.
and, and gestated full term. And then when that baby is old enough, developed enough to be born, it is removed from that tank of special fluid and raised on the ship by the beings who created this hybrid baby. And those babies tend to live on the ship for their entire lives with
Mm-hmm.
beings. And that is because they have so many more genetics that are extraterrestrial than genetics that are human. And so they
Okay.
would be able to survive here, and
Mm-hmm.
they wouldn't be accepted here either.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, then there's another type of hybrid where the same process happened that I have mentioned, except that instead of the embryo being removed from the woman, the mother, it is left in the womb to develop full term, and those babies are born here. They are
Mm-hmm.
already hybrids that they're born here, and they live their entire lives here as a human. So they obviously have more human genetics than extraterrestrial genetics, so that they can fit in with our bacteria and viruses and worlds and
Mm-hmm.
ways of doing things that we do here on Earth. But in those cases, those hybrid children, even when they're very young, they have show some of the features which Sheila has been mentioning. That is, they um, right from the earliest age, they feel that their Earth family that they were born to isn't their real family, and
Mm-hmm.
their real family is out there in space. And they too, like Sheila mentioned with the starseeds, they go out frequently, even from those very early ages and their whole life, actually, and look up in the sky and say, "Why aren't you coming for me? I know my home is with you. You are my true, real family." And
Mhm.
and they continue to have visits from those beings who gave them their genetics, um, very, very often, and sometimes they're taken away to the spaceship by those beings. And by the way, they don't consider those events abductions. They just consider them wonderful, very, very welcomed,
Mhm.
appreciated visits
Right.
because they feel like they are their real family. So they
Mhm.
live their lives giving all kinds of service to other humans, basically to raise the consciousness of humanity and
Mhm.
to help in many, many ways that they can help with their amazing psychic skills and healing
Mhm.
skills and communication skills and so forth. And they also are here to acquaint other people with the fact that this cosmos is teeming with millions of different kinds of beings,
Mhm.
very intelligent, advanced beings. Because I think most of humanity up to this point has really not known very much about that, if anything. And
Mhm.
many people have, picked up the idea of extraterrestrials from the media, um, but they don't know whether that's something they can really trust and really believe in. So these ambassadors, we'll call them, these hybrids living on Earth, are really here, among other things, to acquaint people with that part of reality, to validate the existence of the other kinds of beings. So I
So
think it's a
this,
wonderful service that they give all three types: walk-ins and star
mhm.
seeds and hybrids. Uh,
With the hybrid, is this kind of like the Egyptian adapt? I don't know the official term, but it's where the extraterrestrials were aiding man in advancement during the like the Egypt trial and everything. Is it that project 2.0?
yes, I don't know, frankly,
Okay.
whether there were walk-ins or hybrids or what we call star seeds. Uh,
Hmm.
but yeah, they're what we know through history about
Hmm.
what some of those key figures in ancient Egypt have said, and depictions too in sculptures and wall paintings and so forth. It certainly seems like there was quite a lot of influence
Right.
from some of the extraterrestrial beings. And then, of course, people wonder about the pyramid, which
Hmm.
I have visited and climbed twice
Hmm.
in my life. And so I've had a great fascination with that. There are many theories. I
Hmm.
don't think anybody has proved it, but many seemingly valid
Hmm.
theories that it was extraterrestrials who came long, long, long ago, way longer ago than our
Right.
experts talk about, but that they came and that they actually were responsible for constructing the pyramids. I
Right.
don't know, that's
And the global power system, because China's trying to hide pyramids. We found pyramids literally on every continent of the planet, including the
yes,
U.S.
yeah, we're
As
finding more and more.
we are, as the Earth moves into a hotter range, um, things are becoming more evident. So, what
Yes.
was y'all's hardest point with this book?
Mm. Probably I had about 11 appendixes in the back. And the
Okay.
editor was like, oh, in the back of the book. And the
Hmm.
editor was like, that has to be moved to the front of the book because we were talking about walk-in starseeds hybrids. I put all the other information in the back. And she said, the information, you have to rewrite all of those sections to make it part of the front of the book and rewrite it in such a way that it sort of sets the stage so that people could easily understand how a walk-in or a starseed or even a hybrid could occur. So in the front of the book, and I've got a great glossary also, but in the front of the book, you know, the first several chapters, I have 3 big chapters that are about the dimensions and the densities. They're about timelines. They're about the holographic universe. They're about the planes of existences. Then there's a whole section in there too that talks about humanity itself being within a holographic field. And that's what I work in with people. So like if I were to work on you, I would see you as having a piece of graph paper laid over you. And these are information conduits that run left and right, up and down. They go all the way in and out. They're also called ley lines. And that was taught to me by my healing team that came and gave me all this information. But anyway, so the front of the book talks about those kinds of things. So we even have a little bit of healing information in there and set it up to where people can understand that in order for us to be in the human condition, in order for us to be the beings that we are, it gives different scenarios on how we got here and the structure in which the soul resides. Because a walk-in is still a soul. A hybrid is still a soul. A starseed, you can't get away from it. Okay. And so all beings have that divinity, that consciousness unit from source, that individuation of the source energy in them.
Right. And they're going to all have, you know, it's kind of like, and I'm sorry to break it, but this is probably the easiest way for me to break it up for people to understand is walk-ins are used car salesmen. What I mean by that is they have bought a used car that has nicks, dings, and bumps in it.
That's
and
exactly
then they have
what
to
I
figure
say.
it out. Okay.
Great. Good for you.
It is, you know, because when I came in, I inherited the illnesses of the body. I inherited the behavioral traits that took me like 10 years to clear the cellular memory, to be able to move through those behavioral patterns, to be able to clear things up, get the children raised to where then I could move forward with my mission.
Right.
So you're right. It's just like a used car.
It is. And now my question is do most walk-ins separate first life, second life?
Most of them do. Yes.
Yeah.
It's pre-walk-in, post-walk-in. But I do have to tell you, you know, not all walk-ins are soul exchanges. There are many, many different types of walk-ins.
Okay.
The closest to a walk-in is what I call a step down or a step in. And like with me, I'm a soul exchange. My soul is here, as far as I know, anchored to this body until the body expires. Okay. But there are other walk-ins that come in that are soul exchanges, but they only stay for, say, a few years. They leave and a new soul comes in, and that one leaves and another soul comes in. So it's like the body, the form serves as the host for all of these soul experiences. Now, the one thing I always tell people, you have to remember, if we're coming from an oversoul, which we all have our own oversoul, if this is the oversoul, these little fingers are our multidimensional lifetimes. And so when you have, this is what would be called the Shantias Khan, and the Shantias Khan has your higher self stream, your everything that makes up your spiritual bodies and what's going to become the personality of that lifetime, the soul. Okay. But you can have many of these. So if this soul leaves, this soul can come in. And if that one leaves, all of these can, you know, so they can really switch switch out. So sometimes with a soul exchange, like I didn't come from this one, I came from over here. But that's just part of my story. But there's also what's called a soul infusion. Now these involve like the integration of higher self aspects or soul aspects that come in and they fuse with the soul. Now they augment the soul.
So they get a new engine.
Yeah. Yeah. Rather than the soul leaving, there's soul mergers, there's jump ins, there's, overlays, soul projections, braids, there's layers. There's so many different types of walk ins. Right. And I do break all of those down in the book, as well as talk about some of the situations that might occur that would allow a walk in to take place.
But let's clear it up, because the reason I'm covering just surface level, guys, is because I want you to go buy the book. You'll need the book and the posted sticks. Okay. But let's clear up. We are not talking possession.
No. And I'm so glad you brought that up, because a lot of people, they say, oh, well, if you have another soul that came in, you kicked the old soul out. Well, I was concerned about that myself, because growing up, I was, Southern Baptist and the whole 9 yards. You don't talk about soul exchanges. That doesn't happen. Okay. Right. However, one of the things that I always tell people is you have to realize that these are contracts that are made. These are soul agreements that become part of the life plan or the pre-birth plan. Okay. When you can tell a walk-in, because they're always in service to humanity. They're working on healing. They're working with planetary issues, ecological issues, etc. Possessions will happen when a person's energy field is lowered and you have another being in the astral realm that sees a little opening and they come in. Okay. But they're malevolent. Walk-ins are benevolent. So it's a huge difference. But I can see where people would think that, because in a way it's like, well, especially if you're having an infusion, because you still have your soul, but you have other aspects come in. But again, it's all for the betterment of humanity.
Right. So the other question in this theory I have to ask is, what about cell memory? What happens with it? Because every soul that comes in has cell memory from other lives built in.
Exactly.
And if you're changing souls, do you then pick up that cell memory?
Okay. So I go in depth with the different bodies and everything. So I'm just going to hit the highlights here. But when a fetus is created, first off, you have the genetic material, the ancestral lineage from the earth line, okay, that's in that fetus. The soul that's going to inhabit that fetus comes in and out, imprinting small amounts of information, so that when that soul solidifies, when the baby takes the first breath, that it doesn't just explode, the baby with all that soul energy. Okay. So you first have that imprintation. That imprintation continues. So you've got the physical genetics and you've got the epigenetics of the soul that create the person. When you have life experiences, you also begin to create cell memory. So if a child lays their hand on a hot stove and they jerk it off, they know what the word hot means. Okay. They're not going to do that again. That's a cell memory that is imprinted into the brain as well as the cellular structure. So like when I came in, I had the used car. I had the cellular memories. I had the physical genetics. I had all the epigenetics of the old soul imprinted into the cellular structure. But when the new soul came in, it activated and it shifted. Now, when a new soul comes in, yes, mine came in like that, and I remember the process. Not everybody does remember the process like that. But when I came in, there was such a difference in that energy field that my cells responded differently, and 100% of all my illnesses went away. 100%. The doctors basically tapped me on the head and said, "Good job, our medicine works," kind of thing. But the reality is, what feeds this form is the holographic grid, that graph paper
Right.
that I told you was laid over us, that's fed by first the etheric body. That's where the
Mm-hmm.
template of the soul, the human, the divine
Mm-hmm.
template is laid. And that's what creates the physical form. So that's kind of like the chassis that this car goes on.
Right.
Then you have the emotional mental body. They used to be two, but the electromagnetic field in between them has collapsed because we're raising in higher vibrations, et cetera, et cetera. So you have the emotional, the mental, then the astral body. That astral
Mm-hmm.
body then is able to access all three of the astral realms. Then you have the spiritual body. Then you
Mm-hmm.
have the celestial body, the crystalline body, and then the crystalline shield. Okay.
Right.
All that has to be shifted out. You also have chakras in the body. All the
Mm-hmm.
chakras have to either be augmented or totally switched out. Then you have
Mm-hmm.
meridians. Then you have the ley lines that go
Right.
through the body. So, becoming a walk-in is a super in-depth process. So as all of my fields were being changed out, more and more of my soul essence could come in. As more of the true me came
Mm-hmm.
in, then I was able to start clearing because I didn't respond the same way. Okay. That's
Mm-hmm.
cellular memory. Those are
Right.
behavioral patterns. Okay. So I began to clear all of that. And it took me about 10 years to clear
Mm-hmm.
out that cellular memory.
Hmm.
Now, I still have the ancestral lineage, but I
Mm-hmm.
don't have the cellular memories of the previous soul. But I'm not going to say that because every time I think I've overcome all the behavioral patterns, a situation will come up even 24 years later. And I'm like,
Right.
why did I respond that way? I'm not even thinking that way. And it's like, oh, yes, you have to remember you're a soul having a human experience. You're a
Right.
soul having a human experience. So when I get
Right.
really frustrated, I'm like, this is just a human experience. 100 years, nobody's going to care about it anyway. So just let it go. So that's,
Right.
becomes a coping mechanism as well.
It
But,
I
does.
remind myself of that too when I'm
yeah,
very frustrated with something. Oh yeah, that this is just I'm here for experience. I'm here to learn how to deal with that type of thing, no matter
Mm-hmm.
how frustrating it is.
Right.
But it always helps to have that bigger perspective
yes,
It
that
does.
that we're here to experience
yes.
a lot, including those things that are problems and are really frustrating for us.
Right.
Yeah,
And
that
we get
helps.
really trapped into that
Yeah,
situation. And then we get into that point of like, why am I doing this? But can we please abandon the example? Can we please abandon the trad husband, trad wife behavior that is imprinted in our ancestral DNA? Enough with it.
Right.
right,
And many
right.
people have come in this lifetime specifically to heal that because
Mm-hmm.
as one individual heals, their vibrational frequency raises, it imprints on the collective consciousness, and the collective consciousness vibration raises. And
Right.
so this is, a very pivotal time, in
Right.
Earth's history.
Yeah,
It is. But I think that this is, to put it for a lack of of words, this is the seventh gate. Can we get to the eighth and ninth gate so we can get done with the physical experiences?
Yeah.
Some
Yeah.
of us are a little tired of this gate stuff.
Yeah.
So, Barbara, what is the psychologist in you way back when say about all this?
are you asking me?
Yeah.
Well, I think that there's a lot of the same old noogey googey stuff going
Mm-hmm.
on in the world, and there
Right.
certainly are groups of people that are really insisting on taking massive control over
Mm-hmm.
all of humanity. There's all of that going on, and there's also a lot of underground, literally underground in
Mm-hmm.
tunnels, underground going on of human trafficking, child trafficking, and so forth.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's just incredible to me all the terrible things
Mm-hmm.
going on in the world. And it's very good that more and more of this is coming to the surface, coming to light,
Mm-hmm.
that more and more people are becoming aware of it, and more and more of it is being exposed.
Mm-hmm.
More and more people are, or at least certain people, are trying to really route this out and end it and clear it up. And boy, I give credit to those people. Fantastic what some of them are doing. And in the midst of all of this that I have just said, I am so grateful that there are people here now and probably all over the world, as far as I know, um, of these categories of people. We're talking about walk-ins, starseeds, hybrids, that are really here for a very different reason, to really
Mm-hmm.
help humanity, to help individuals, to raise the consciousness, to raise the frequencies, even of the
Mm-hmm.
earth itself, and certainly of
Right.
humanity. So there's a lot going on. And I think it's important, personally, that more people become acquainted with, like, the material that we're sharing,
Mm-hmm.
that there really are forces for good happening here too.
Well, there
Yes.
is definitely forces for good. There is definitely forces for things getting redirected, reconnected. But if we look back, especially, Barbara, you have an extensive writing career. Um, if we look back, maybe let's go late 95, 96, when a lot of stuff started coming out about walk-ins, and we were releasing theories of star seeds and cosmic seeds, and this stuff started going out.
Right.
And the fifth dimensional information started being released. We were told this. We
We
were
were,
told that things were going to get crazy as we raised vibrations, that there was going to be planetary reactions as we raised vibrations, that there were going to be insanity going on as we raised vibrations. It's like, oh yeah, the planet can raise vibration. We can move to the fifth dimension, but there's going to be this whole lot of insanity, like raising Atlantis would cause.
Yeah.
yeah. Well, it's a really dynamic situation, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. It is. There's
And,
always a cause versus effect.
and then
Yeah.
there's lots of news, shall we say, from the other species in space, the other kinds of beings, that they look at the Earth and the world, as we think of it, um, as an incredible place. I mean, a really dynamic place. And even from the point of view of the soul in the spirit realm, there are many testimonies from that
Mm-hmm.
aspect of reality. That Earth, boy, if you as a soul want to have experience, as Sheila was saying earlier, Earth is the place to do it, because there's
Mm-hmm.
so much to choose from that you can be involved in,
Mm-hmm.
and for better and for worse. And so the other beings on other planets, many of them have said basically the same thing, that they look at planet Earth as, wow, an incredible potpourri of just amazing experiences. Just about anything that could be experienced is already happening here on Earth somewhere with some
So
people.
we're the Las Vegas of the galaxy.
Yeah,
Kinda.
See, I was figuring more ghetto. I mean, in my opinion, it's like they look at us and go, lock the doors, kids, lock the doors.
Right. Well, we are still very, a warlike type planet.
Mm-hmm.
But everything is changing. And, everything that Barbara was talking about, really, you can sum up, in my opinion, part of the reason why this book was written in the first place, so that people could begin to understand the multidimensional nature of the soul, so that
That's
people
right.
could understand how, you know, what's within is also reflected without. They could understand and break down the complexities that we have been told about, you know, in very digestible chunks. And so
Mm-hmm.
people can, you know, they can pick up this book and they can read about densities, they can read about dimensions and the holographic universe.
Mm-hmm.
And then they can close it up, put it down, digest it, come back up and pick it up. Next time they can go in and read about parallel universes and that type of thing, put it down,
Mm-hmm.
come in, pick up the book, read about the body, you know, the holographic
Mm-hmm.
fields of the body. They put it down, come back and read about walk-ins, starseeds, and hybrids. So, you know, it was
Right.
put together in very digestible chunks. First
Yeah.
off, to help people understand the multidimensional nature of the universe in themselves, but also to help people who are out there having some of these feelings that we've discussed, because they may be a walk-in. They just didn't realize it. Or
Mm-hmm.
they could be a hybrid and they didn't
Mm-hmm.
realize it, or a starseed. So, you know, I think one of the goals is to really serve as a resource manual
Mm-hmm.
for people to
Yeah.
help
Yeah.
guide them through this particular period of time that we're experiencing.
Right. And a
You know,
lot of
and then
people, I think a lot of people just out there in the public are thinking, well, having questions. You
Mhm.
know, could it be that such and such? How come my friend is so entirely different now?
mm-hmm.
You know, she was a certain kind of person going along, and then the next time I saw her or him, um, that person was just so different. You know,
Mhm.
and that whoever is doing that thinking may not have even been aware that there is such a thing as a walk-in.
Right.
You know, and another person might say, "Oh, my sister or my brother um, has always been so kind." You know, I mean, since an early age, has been out there finding stray animals and healing them,
Mm-hmm.
healing friends, healing other people in our family. I mean, how come that person is so different than I am?
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I think everyday people who
Mm-hmm.
are, you know, educated in these particular things um, have a lot of questions
Mm-hmm.
about things,
Mm-hmm.
and yet there doesn't seem to be anybody to go to that they know of uh, for the answers. So I think the more that people are thinking, questioning, wondering,
Mm-hmm.
better. And this book really, I think, is an amazing resource about all these different aspects of reality.
Right.
You
And I think it's a great jumping off point. And what I mean by that is, like, if you're going to study walk-ins, get this book, read through it, then hop over to Shelley's book and read through her book on walk-ins. If you're going to study hybrids, get this book, go through it. If it's still jiving with you, go get Barbara's book on hybrids that came out a couple years ago. And, you know, because there's topics in here that you two both take on that is kind of like, here, figure out which book you need, and then we can go and get you can go and get, you know, 102 and go in depth on that topic.
right.
But the material's different in all of the books.
Yes.
Yes.
You know, lots
Yeah.
of different examples and
Mm-hmm.
different testimonies from different people. You know,
Right.
the theories are the same
Mm-hmm.
as we have mentioned in the book, but there are lots of specific
Right.
examples from real people
Mm-hmm.
who are one of these three categories of people.
Right. You know, so if people want to work with you, are y'all doing workshops? Are you taking clients? If so, how do they get a hold of you?
Well, I'm still seeing regression clients, people who want to know about the source of a difficulty, a problem that they have, or want to know more about who they really are. And
Mm-hmm.
so, and I'm getting more and more of those, which I really appreciate very much. So I'm in San Diego, California, and people who are anywhere near that prefer to come to me in person. But so many people who would like regressions are elsewhere in the country or the world. And thanks to the internet and these special programs that connect us, we can just as effectively do a regression online. So a way to reach me, if anybody is interested in that, is to go to my website, which is Barbara Lamb, Lamb, regression.com, Barbara Lamb regression.com. And there's a place where you can communicate with me. It'll come through to me as an email, and then I'll respond. The website also has a place where any of my 5 books, including Cosmic Convergence, can be ordered. And there's also a YouTube channel, Barbara Lamb ET Regressions, Barbara Lamb ET Regressions, and that has podcasts and interviews about quite a number of subjects that are unusual, that I have experienced and other people I know have experienced. So that's a very interesting thing to take a look at too, if you're interested. So Sheila, how about you?
Okay, well, it's real hard. No, it's super simple. Just SheilaSeppi.com. And you can also email me at SheilaSeppi.com. Now, I do have an entire year program. It's only taught on Sundays for 2 hours. That's coming up next year. People can find out about that. I'll be teaching about the laws of the universe, the sub-laws, the colors and the vibrations associated with it, even foods and drinks that help to raise, our vibrational frequency. And so we'll do one law and the sub-laws every month. I also have channeling, and I was going to say, hey, I do it every month, but sometimes Tiamu, who is my elder mother Andromeda, doesn't want to do it. So it's like, okay, well, I guess we won't do
it. Don't you hate it when the guys just don't want to work?
And she'll tell me, so I'll do Sunday off. Yeah. So I'll give like a teaching, but I do the light language to anchor all of the light codes into the field. And then I do holographic healing, which is I work in the field. I'll, look into the graph paper. I'll find the blockages. They look like little, most of them look like Brillo pads. And as I start to dissect that Brillo pad, the reason, and I tell people, don't tell me a whole lot to start with, because I don't want you to think I'm playing off what you tell me. So I'll start to pull that Brillo pad apart, and I'll say the reason that you feel X, Y, and Z in this lifetime is because in your childhood, and these were reasons for you to overcome this situation that occurred in the Pleiades, or this situation that occurred, but there's soul wounds that come in, and then they get intermingled with this life. And so I'll dissect that. I also do soul readings, let people know, where they originated, what their soul name is, kind of a little bit about, the jobs. I always tell people, I say, we don't sit around on a cloud drinking cappuccino. We're always working, doing something, expanding. And so I can tell people about that. But I have a ton of different sessions that if people are interested, I also do physical healing. And then on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, I do hands-on healing in an office with my son, where we actually will move muscle, bone, tissue, fiber, put it back in the original location, break up compensation patterns, etc. So a lot of times people will come prior to an operation. They'll come 2 weeks after we get the scar tissue broken up, or because we're in the Vail Valley, we have a lot of skiers who come in, and we can help break up some of the compensation patterns, or golfers. We can improve their golf swing. But it's, right. It is a very hands-on modality, but you can find all of that on SheilaSeppi.com.
Cool. And Barbara, are you still seeing clients, or are you just doing regressions now?
Oh, I'm not seeing regular psychotherapy clients.
Okay.
I discontinued that part. so that I can concentrate on doing the regression work.
Right. Right. Because
Yeah.
I remember one time, at one of your interviews, you were still at times seeing clients. Because I think I saw you on Art Bell one night.
Oh, right. Yeah. George.
Yeah.
Noah. Yeah.
George Narwhal. Yeah. Years ago. All right, ladies. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah.
Guys, we're going to take a break. And of course, Cheryl will be in here with Are You the Asshole? And we'll be talking during that segment. All right, y'all. I'll see you later.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you. Bye-bye.
Love diving into metaphysical topics, psychic insights, and lively discussions? Now you can help keep the conversation going. By becoming a Patreon supporter of The Psychic Coffee Shop, you'll gain access to exclusive content, behind-the-scenes insights, and special perks just for our patrons. Join our community and ensure that your favorite psychic show continues to thrive. Your support helps us bring more enlightening episodes, special guests, and deep dives into the world of the unseen. Become a patron today and enjoy a cup of wisdom with us every week. Click the link to join the baristas and unlock exclusive content. Thank you for your support.
Unlock your full potential with Aeson Knight's life coaching. Are you ready to take control of your life and manifest the future you deserve? Aeson Knight, a seasoned life coach and master psychic, is here to guide you on a transformative journey. Whether you're navigating personal challenges, career transitions, or seeking spiritual growth, Aeson's life coaching services offer tailored guidance to help you achieve your goals. With Aeson by your side, you'll discover the tools to overcome obstacles, embrace your true self, and create a life filled with purpose and fulfillment. His unique blend of spiritual insight and practical coaching empowers you to turn your dreams into reality. Ready to make a change? Book your session today and start your journey to a more empowered, balanced, and joyful life with Aeson Knight. Click the link to schedule your first session and step into your power.
Are you ready for an electrifying podcast experience that keeps you coming back for more? Join Aeson Knight every week as he takes you on a journey through captivating shows, each exploring unique and fascinating topics. And here's the best part. By subscribing, you'll never miss an episode where you can get your burning questions answered live on air, absolutely free. Whether it's relationship advice, career guidance, or mystical insights, Aeson's podcasts have got you covered. When you subscribe, you become part of a vibrant community, engaging directly with Aeson as he shares his wisdom and leaves you feeling empowered and enlightened. Don't miss out. Subscribe now and be part of the conversation. What you'll get by subscribing: Monday 5 p.m. Metaphysics. Today, soulful conversations with Aeson Knight and Firefly, exploring the essence of metaphysics in today's world. Tuesday 8 p.m. The Psychic Coffee Shop. Dive into current events with a psychic twist, featuring special guests and thought-provoking discussions. Friday 9 p.m. The Mountain Bears Podcast. Lively discussions from a gayish, techie-ish, bearish perspective with Aeson and Joe. Sunday 5 p.m. Psychic That Plans. Get a weekly tarot energy overview and time management tips from Aeson Knight. Click here to subscribe now and never miss an episode. By subscribing, you're not just tuning in, you're joining a community of curious minds and ensuring you're always in the loop with Aeson's insightful and interactive shows. Don't wait. Hit that subscribe button and get ready for an amazing podcast journey.
Ready for an enchanting journey of self-discovery? Join Lord Aeson Knight in our Wicca courses. Unveil the secrets of Wicca. Explore deity relationships, rituals, and more. As a third-degree high priest, Aeson Knight guides you toward empowerment and enlightenment. Enroll today and take your first step into the magical circle. Click the link to begin your journey.
Psychic Saturday. Get 50% off with Aeson Knight every third Saturday of the month. Don't miss out. Book now.
All right. Guys, go get this book. It is good. It is good. It's a good read. And it's written very well. All right. Hello, darling. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you this evening?
Doing well, doing well. I loved having a conversation with Cheryl and Barbara again. I hadn't gotten to interview Barbara before, but I had heard her way, way back in the Art Bell era and turning into 10:30 a.m. FM, Cincinnati decades ago. So it was a great conversation. I always loved them.
Absolutely. No, it sounded like you guys had a great conversation.
We did. So, do you have an Are You the Asshole for us this week?
I do. Am I the asshole for inviting someone to my friend's engagement party knowing it might cause drama? I, 23 female, have been friends with Jeanette, 22 female, for 4 years now. And Jeanette is engaged to Jake, 23 male. She's kind, funny, and has always been a supportive friend to me. However, I've never liked her fiance, Jake, 23 male. Jake and I have never gotten along. I felt like he wasn't a good match for her. He's the type to make rude jokes, flirt too openly, and has a horrible ego. Although I've tried to tell Jeanette gently that her fiance was not the best, I didn't have any concrete reasons he was an asshole. Just my intuition, so I kept most of my thoughts to myself for a while because Jeanette was so happy with him. I'd assume they might break up eventually. When they announced their engagement, I was happy for her, but deep down, I felt like it was a mistake. Last weekend was their engagement party at their apartment, and I have to admit I went into it feeling petty. I invited a good friend of mine, Clara, who Jake had once hit on before he and Jeanette got serious. I didn't have a plan to trap him per se, but I wasn't exactly being innocent either because I knew in my gut that Jake would do something. Neither Clara nor Jeanette was aware of this. Sure enough, Jake gravitated towards Clara almost immediately. Clara told me he'd been flirting heavily and even suggested they sneak off together. I told Clara it was up to her what to do, and Clara decided to approach Jeanette directly and tell her everything. However, Clara told Jeanette at the party. Jeanette stayed calm and asked Clara to lead Jake to their bedroom, where she waited. Jake took the bait, and Jeanette caught him in the act, and it was impossible for him to argue that he had pure intentions. It was a whole mess. Jeanette threw Jake out, and the party ended in tears and chaos. Now Jeanette is depressed and furious. As of now, she hasn't suspected that I brought Clara to the party on purpose, as she's dealing with the fallout, and I haven't had the guts to admit that I brought Clara on purpose. I felt awful for how it all unfolded, but I feel like Jeanette deserved to find out before she committed to him. That being said, I can't deny that I went into the situation knowing it might blow up. Am I the asshole?
No, but you keep that damn secret till the day you die.
Ooh.
Hey, you gotta calculatedly catch the assholes.
Look, I'm all for, like, no. I gotta go with you're the asshole on this one. There's a lot with this going on. One, I think you're far less innocent than you're trying to claim that, well, I knew it might cause something to happen, but I didn't really expect, and I feel bad. No, you don't. No, you don't. No, you don't. You've tried to tell her from the beginning. You legitimately tried to tell her, but again, you didn't have anything concrete. She was in love. You then decide, knowing full well what would most likely happen, to invite a friend to effectively do exactly what you did. Like, you planned to trap him. You just didn't expect it to actually happen at the party, nor did you expect Clara to confront Jeanette with what was going on at the party, and you didn't expect all of this would occur at the party. So you're feeling really guilty at this point, for many good reasons. I think most of all because you didn't even have the guts to bring your friend in first, as in Jeanette, whose engagement party you're at, to let her know your plan and plan it for some time more appropriately. Typically, engagement parties are huge. They're huge events. They're huge costs. They're huge things. It's not as expensive as a wedding, but it's part of the dream day sequence. I'm not going to say I will say you ruined the party. I think you saved her from a horrible mistake. I think she knows and accepts that and maybe even appreciates it. But at the same time, it's still not a moment you want to have at your engagement party is catching your boyfriend until they cheat on you, or actually in the act of cheating on you.
It's not where you want to do it. But
No,
here's the thing.
It's not where it should be done.
Right.
I mean, because typically for an engagement party, this isn't just going to all be about your friend Jeanette. It's a lot about her, but it's not all about her. It's typically going to overlap with his friends as well. So that's an unfortunate position to put anyone in, is to not only involve, like, unwittingly the two of them in this plan to trap him into, going for the bait of your friend Clara, but to then do the whole spectacle potentially in front of everyone he knows.
Right.
Or most of the people he knows, or a good number of people he's very close to. Is a really, really, really ugly situation. Now, if this had been more of a long-term cheating, she knew and decided to do this to him. I as in Jeanette, the friend who was engaged that now isn't, had decided to do this to him. That's a choice she could make, and I would be way more supportive. You effectively did this to her. I will say there was some bad judgment on Jeanette's part. I think she got overexcited at finding out the truth without thinking through the consequences for finding out in that moment.
Right.
But I still have to go back to, I think OP created the situation in which that happened. So I have to go with OP. You're so the asshole. That is not where you play this game.
Okay.
There's a lot of ways to play this game. Not that I appreciate the game per se, but hey, people do it. This is the whole bait my boyfriend, see if he takes it. Bait my girlfriend, see if they take the bait. I think that's kind of a. I have issues with that, but I understand it occurs. I'm, if that's the way you want to go about it, then more power to you.
Right.
But typically not at an engagement party.
Normally, no. Engagement parties would be bad to do this at.
I mean, is it as bad as doing it at like someone's wedding or wedding reception? No.
No. Now, granted, that would have given us. Well, again, I have
one day Joe is going to go straight to Patty and shock us all.
Yeah, we'll get there.
Yeah, I think you knew exactly what was going to happen, and this is not quite what you intended. I think it got out of hand, but you're the asshole. You started it. That's where I'm at. All right.
Yeah. All right, so let's go over to psychic services.
All right, we got that poll up?
Yep, it's in your private.
Awesome. All right. Yeah, this is the FO part of or this is the FO part of FA. Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. All right, so our psychic brings us, has anyone heard of the same soul lost in a miscarriage coming back in a subsequent pregnancy? We lost our girl and were very heartbroken. My wife was bitten by a dog, and we think the rabies shot caused the miscarriage. Now we're trying to get pregnant again, but only have boy embryos left. Is it possible that this pregnancy could still have the same soul as the girl we lost? Or, if not this one, that she would come back as our second child? Has anyone heard stories about this kind of thing?
Yes, often.
Okay.
This is what happens. A soul is not going to enter a body it cannot accept. Often what occurs is if something happens during the pregnancy, the soul will go, nope, I can't deal with this. That body isn't right for me. We have a miscarriage, something occurs.
Mm-hmm.
Next, but if that soul is connected to that soul group and that they are set that, yeah, you're going to be my parents, they will come back into the next body.
Okay. Well, and I think that has to get into the concept of when does the soul enter the body and what one's personal beliefs are. I think is an important part of that.
Right.
Because I think they were at a point in which not only did they already know the gender, that they were additionally starting to really like connect in this child's birth. Like the child was not born yet, but they were far enough in the pregnancy that like you've got hopes and dreams and you're starting to put it all together. And I think sometimes the hard part of realizing or processing this is if you feel like the soul entered the body of the child during the pregnancy and not at birth, then you're trying to connect to a child that fundamentally was lost, and I think that's where the question comes in. Whereas what you're really talking about is the different viewpoint that the soul enters the body at birth, and so while that soul was around, waiting for that birth, and in that viewpoint rejected the body,
right,
or whatever. So no child was lost.
Right.
Would be the mindset is you didn't lose your girl.
Right.
And that's in as so much as like is a soul gendered as well as the soul hadn't entered the body. So therefore the lost pregnancy doesn't equate to a lost soul.
Right.
Like that soul didn't necessarily just move on.
Right, because there's this large Catholic theory that if you miscarry, the child goes to purgatory. I don't believe in that theory.
Understandably. Like it's kind of it's a lot to take in and process, and I know that miscarriage is hard enough. The fact that like there are religions that do kind of add the insult to the injury that like, oh, not only did you lose a child, which is traumatic enough, now the child burns in hell. At least for get toasty in purgatory.
Right. Which is so bullshit, okay? Like, this is, like, I do not understand how a religion could get the soul's ideal contract and pathway, who their own deity is risen from the dead, one of many, get this so messed up and locked in guilt that it ain't funny.
Now, I think Shannon brings up the best point. And it was kind of where I was getting started at. But this is the next. My concern with those sort of views with someone being like, this is my dead child, come back to me, while comforting to the person, can cause some mental issues later on, because the hopes and dreams they had towards that child end up put upon the new child, and it can cause major issues.
Yeah.
And
it can. And that's where, they would need therapy. Any traumatic event like that, you should have therapy. However, there is a number of cases. One of the cases is from Scotland. And this couple had a set of twins, and I think the twins died at 3. 5 or 6 years later, they've moved countries. They moved to England. Was not keeping, except for like a few important things, of the twins, and they have another set of twins. Now, this is a case of souls that entered the body and had an experience. Not pre-ordered the body and went, I ordered the leather seats and this one doesn't have leather seats. I'm not taking that. Children get about 3 again, to where they're talking and walking and experiencing, and they talk about where their home is. They keep asking for their toys, their favorite toys, that were the first set of twins toys. These children never saw pictures, never knew. I mean, they're 3. Never knew that they had an older set of sisters. The whole 9 yards. Now, my only problem is the poster sexualized the soul. The soul isn't sexualized until they enter a body. And then it's even debatable when we're getting to gender theory. That's a whole nother 50 yards down the road.
Yeah. Well, and I did bring that up, is that, like, one, you're pre-gendering a soul. That, like, okay, careful with that. But because if you're expecting, like, one, I would think it would be, and this is probably the least politically correct thing I'll say for a while. If you're expecting that it would be traumatic for a parent to get back the child you lost that is gendered female inside the physicality of a male body. Like, again, it shouldn't be, but I would think there are parents out there that would be like, oh no, what do we do? And it's like, stop there. That's not how this works. Be very careful with that. You're reassigning gender to a gender neutral being, which is a soul.
It has changed genders as many times as they have changed lives, possibly. There are very few souls that come back always female or always male. Very few. They do a phase where they're male. They do a phase where they're female. They do a phase where they're transgender. They do a phase. Like, trying to track that is insanity, because the universe doesn't see that. Like, we imprint time, we imprint gender, we imprint gender roles. That's an earthly thing. That's a thing that occurs biological level. That's a thing that occurs DNA based level. That is not a soul based thing.
So yeah, that was kind of where I was talking about in the beginning, and it's like, so be careful trying to gender a soul. Like, it is neither both, all, and nothing all at the same time. Like, that's, I mean, it's like trying to figure out the from the positive and negative end of a battery which gender it is. It's like, but it's everything and nothing, because it's stop. It's gonna, it just doesn't work. So no, you're not getting your daughter as your son. That's not how this works. And generally is not the theory behind why kids are or become transgender. Like, this isn't how this happens. This isn't, Stop. If that's any part of this that you're trying to ask about, because I think this is not where their question is, but I could see it also being one of those moments that like we got so devastated, we only have male embryos, we attached gender to this soul. What did we just do? Because if the soul is still going to come back to us, it's now going to be a boy. It's a boy. What did we do? But no, it's not that. Just in case there is a fear component, or a fear becomes part of the next steps.
Right. You know,
after you have the realization that yes, that can occur, does occur,
very often occurs, very much so, especially if you have a small soul school ready to return. What I mean by that is everybody in your life is part of your soul group. Kind of like they're all in the same classroom. They could be your uncle this life, your grandfather the next life, your brother the next life, you're the child the next life. You bounce around and play different roles to fit the cosmology. It is what it is. But again, a soul won't step into a body that's not that is not ready for it, and its mission or its missions. So yes, that occurs. Yes, it very often occurs. And if I can find the documentary talking about the set of twin souls, I will post it in the barista member space for them to see it.
Okay.
All right. So how's the poll? Let's see. Where did we end?
Am I the asshole?
Oh, okay. Just like us, they are split.
Ooh, is it extreme, or is it like
it's extreme?
Ooh.
Yes, you're the asshole by 50% of the vote. No, you're not the asshole by the other 50%. Hung jury tonight.
Oh, yes.
Yes. All right. But no, all right. So Shannon brings up that this is a way to control the parents. Make sure you pay your tithes and your hell money. If they don't behave a certain way, their crossed over child will be punished in purgatory. So BS, so guilt culture, so whatever title you want to throw onto it. Can I just call baloney?
Although speaking about tithes, I do want to preview a story real quick for Friday that we're going to have so much fun with.
Okay.
Would you ask for a refund of your tithes?
Yes. Especially if I had to pay in advance and pay blessing money.
There you go. All right, so you'll find out more about that on Friday. But for now, we would like to thank Beverly Walker, Mika G, Brenda, Joan Owen, Shannon C, Shannon D, Lady Gwendolyn, Caitlin Bell, Devin, Bella, and Maria Meyer. If you'd like to learn more about us, the show, or how you too can become a Patreon sponsor and receive all the wonderful benefits our baristas receive, please visit us at pcspnetwork.com.
Yes. All right, guys. We will see you Friday from Mountain Bears. I hope you enjoyed our guest center conversations. They have both very, very accomplished careers, very deep research, especially Barbara. And her, like, she's got 5 books out, so many classes, so much body of work there. Like, it was really fun sitting down with them.
Absolutely.
All right, guys. We will see you later. Bye, y'all.
Bye.